If you're a CISO stepping into a new organization, these first 90 days could feel like a blur, and they are very challenging. There are big questions, but the basics are obvious. Where are we exposed? Are we secure? What should we worry about first? Today, we're talking about what you should do in your first 90 days, what CISOs must know about their attack surface. I'm Lisa Dowling. I'm joined by Nick Merritt. Nick heads up product and security teams here at Halo Security. He has helped hundreds of CISOs roll out ASM. Hey, Nick, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here today to, have this conversation. It's we have many CISOs that are looking at Halo Security and ASM solutions within the first, few weeks to a few months of, taking on a new role at an organization. So, just like you said, Lisa, they're under immense pressure across the board, within their organization. And visibility is a huge one for them, right? It empowers them to be able to make decisions and answer questions under pressure.
So Nick, but why do we keep hearing from CISOs in the first 90 days?
Well, when it comes to the first 90 days, a lot of that is just kind of, framing it within getting started. Within the first 90 days is almost nothing when you're starting into a new role into an organization. But for a CISO, they sit in a different hot seat. It's almost day one. Everyone expects answers from them on, everything from what are the next priorities? What do our budgets look like? How are the teams? Are the teams need to be reorganized to be more effective? So, right in the beginning, these are all things on the CISO's plates. More and more, we see that they're looking to find an attack surface layer or discovery engine, some way for them to get a handle from an outside perspective of what the situation really is.
So these teams, why is it so hard for these teams to get clear answers from internal teams?
Right. Yes. I mean, most CISOs nowadays are pretty aware that when they go into an organization and they're asking for the different teams to give them, a full comprehensive look of the situation, they're not surprised that they're unable to get that clarity. Teams and organizations are siloed into their areas of responsibility, from their IT groups to sysadmins, your web developers. Across the board, they're really focused in on the areas that they have knowledge about. So there really isn't a great place to go in an organization to say, what do we have out there? What were the acquisitions from the past? What partnerships are we involved with? What shadow IT we might have out there, from intentional to projects that were forgotten. So, overall, getting that from an internal perspective is very challenging. Most CISOs now, know nowadays that they need to get an outside in view.
So what are the risks out there? And we know, why aren't they caught by regular vulnerability scanners?
Right. Yeah. And I get that quite a bit. There are great vulnerability scanners out there. I mean, Halo Security does, full pen testing. We use every tool you've heard of, but it really comes down to, these tools are designed for, networking, local, LANs, basically. They're designed for you to put in the targets or the host names that you already know about. They're not really designed to be discovery engines, especially, from internet facing. It's really hard to do that. Internally, tools can rely on protocols and methods to actually do these discoveries. So what has happened is, most of the IT teams are using tools that are designed for an internal audit and not an external one. So these, you really have to have a tool that's focused from an outside view to have a comprehensive view of the attack surface. It just can't be done with existing tools. So most CISOs actually know this today, and that's like one of the first things they're doing is looking for an ASM solution.
So the first thing a CISO should do when they want to start to reduce risk, what do they do?
I mean, it really comes down to kind of the, common sense, which is we have to take things offline. So we need to get that inventory. We need to understand what we're looking at, and then we need to reduce our attack surface. We can't just leave things online if they're no longer being used. The other thing is also identifying when you have dev sites out there from as well as staging or any remote access that really shouldn't have their own remote access. They should be going through their own dedicated VPN and things like that. So to answer your question, the first way to reduce risk for CISOs are usually very obvious to them. What are they missing? They're missing that list of things they need to take offline immediately.
So how do you separate the real risk from all the noise? Because we know there's a lot going on.
That's right. And so when, we're looking across the board, there's many ASM solutions that will tell you about all the best practices and bombard you with so many tasks that it's hard to figure out where to start. Halo Security, we have all of that information, but the thing that we're going to bring to your attention are things that are being actually exploited in the wild. So we're going to give you a priority list that are things that are no-brainer. We need to make sure that we patch these servers or take them offline or both, so that we can actually, take action and not waste time getting distracted by theoreticals. And I think, most CISOs really appreciate having a solution that's telling them effective remediations versus, just going after, noisy best practices. That, of course, we want you to have a perfectly green attack surface and to look unattractive to any of the attackers. But first, we need to make sure they can't get in the doors.
And when they find these assets, what's the fastest way to understand which assets are more important?
Right. There's a few different ways to go about it. One of the things that we can do at Halo is that we can integrate into your cloud environments and identify what is infrastructure and what is third party. So this is one of the biggest challenges, is understanding what is, some assets can actually be fixed by your team, and other assets need to be evaluated for, if this is a third party, is this a vetted third party? Do we continue to have this relationship with them? Do we ask them to actually patch their servers? So the thing about it is that we need to identify what's in our control and what's not in our control, but can affect us, because third parties can get you hacked. So one of the biggest things out there is your typical vulnerability scanner is only looking at your infrastructure. ASM is looking at your infrastructure, also your third-party connections, and giving you an oversight into where the real risk is. So a very common, a well-known exploit that came about a few years ago was, I believe, around Uber and having a single sign-on implementation. And so this is a publicly known information where what had happened is that they had a subdomain get taken over, and that subdomain allowed a social engineering attack throughout their single sign-on protocol. So all I'm saying, want to cover there is that vulnerability scanners, the traditional vulnerability scanners, are not looking for that risk. There's a true gap between vulnerability scanners and ASM. I know I took that question a little bit further, but I kind of want to make those points because it's so important to me when I'm talking to CISOs that they're not missing that gap.
And so when they look to remediate, what's the best way for CISOs to route those hits?
Right. So it really puts down to not having to change the system that their IT teams are already using, their developers are already using. So we need to identify which group is responsible for these assets, which is difficult. That's hard to do. And then the next step is what we need to do is actually route tickets through Jira or ServiceNow to these developers. So when they get out of bed in the morning and they have something they need to remediate, it's no different to them on where it was found. It was found from Halo system or another system. The developers and IT people do not need to be retrained on how to get the information to them. So that's what, we really want to do with Halo Security. We don't want to change anybody's day-to-day job. We want to supplement the risk information into their existing systems.
Helps them prioritize. Yep. So once the CISO has an ASM solution in place, how does that help them on a day-to-day basis?
Right. Well, immediately once you have your full inventory and you have a kind of a temperature check on which teams may or may be weaker than others or stronger than others, it gives you that CISO that full confidence to be able to answer questions quickly when they're under pressure from their executives or also making decisions about budgets. They have the information at their fingertips. I mean, it's really ASM, I think, is really a CISO's dashboard. That's really the intention of it. And that allows you to make sure that all of the systems that you have in place are working by having an outside in view to give you that perspective. So, not only do they have, information immediately, well, I mean, that's really the point. Someone asks the CISO a question about an asset or maybe even a rumor, they're able to go into Halo Security, pull up that asset, pull up that target, and find out what the real situation of that asset really is.
Well, we know there are other ASM platforms out there, but what do CISOs value most about Halo's approach?
Really, I mean, CISOs will tell you all the time that the reason why they like working with Halo is because they don't have to learn a whole proprietary system. They don't have to live inside the software. With Halo Security, we get you up and running with a human approach, human guidance, so that we can show you exactly how to configure the system, integrate with your ticketing systems, and then the ongoing remediation with Halo is really with security reviews where we're providing you guidance on what we think we should tackle next. I mean, a CISO has so many responsibilities that really when it comes to ASM solution, they need us to be able to immediately jump on a call with them and let them know where we're seeing issues or where things have changed. So Halo, I mean, with Halos, CISOs really appreciate not just getting a tool they have to operate on their own.
And so what's the best way for a CISO to get started with Halo Security?
You can sign up for a free trial. You don't actually have to wait for us to set up an account or anything like that. You can sign up directly on our website and get up and running within minutes. Of course, if you want to schedule a time to have a conversation, love to do that with you. Every organization has a different flavor of this problem. So love to have the conversation so I can provide guidance on what would be the best approach to get that CISO started.
Thanks, Nick. Always great to talk with you. Thanks for sharing your insights today. If you're interested in quickly understanding your external risk, we offer a free ASM trial at halosecurity.com. Thanks for joining us.